Hello guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about what we can do in Singapore market. First of all, I would like to let you to know Singapore market is a very boring market. It's purely for investment. It's totally not for trading. If you are looking to trade in Singapore market, then you can give up. Singapore market is purely for investment only. So in the whole Singapore market, there is actually around few thousand stock that can buy and sell, but actually we conclude that there's only a few stock actually is worth to invest. The first one is risk, second one is banks. Okay, let's jump into the detail of what is a risk first. Okay, so as you know, risk is actually buying the companies they are own the property, so you collect the rental fee, and then every quarter or every half year or every year you collecting the dividend yield. So we share about this first. This is in April 2020. We can see that within a month, actually risk is the percentage of return is very high. You can see most of the risk is actually return from 10 to 20%. If you buy in first day of April, and then in the end of April you actually will gain at least 10% in your risk portfolio. This is fantastic compared to the others individual company in Singapore market. Okay, after that we try to compare the risk index with the STI ETF index. So from here we notice that the STIs is actually underperform of the risk. You can see that risk is totally the return is about 49.55%. If you are buying Singapore ETF, you can only get about 1.92%. Yeah, this is compared last 10 years from 2012 to 2020. So you can see that the risk ETF is always outperform the Singapore ETF. So from here we conclude that you are just buying the risk, then you can do better than buying the Singapore STI ETF alone. Okay, so you want to buy the risk, what is the criteria that you're going to look at? So we conclude a few criteria, total have about 6. First criteria is the gearing ratio. What is a gearing ratio? Gearing ratio is a debt that the risk company that borrow from the bank, and then the gearing ratio is equal to the value of the property. The debt is how much debt is equal to the company property value. So generally we want it to be 30 to less than 40. We don't want it to be so high, because if it is too high, the risk company may turn into the problems. So we want it to below 40. Just recently, Singapore government have allowed the risk company to have the gearing ratio up to 50% of the property value. This is because of the coronavirus. But most of the risk company are not going to do this way, because if they borrow too much money, they are going to pay more interest in the future. Second one is an interest coverage ratio. What is the interest coverage ratio? It's the total earning can cover how many times of the interest. The risk company, once they borrow the money, they have to pay the interest to the bank. So we want to know their 1 month rental fee that they collected from the tenant can cover how many times of the interest. Generally, we want it to have at least 2 to 3 times is the best. If there is less than 2 times, means that the risk company, the rental fee that they collect is generally not enough to cover the interest rate they are paying. So this is really unhealthy. Third thing is the average cost of debt. This is a risky. If the company is a very risk, then they have the higher cost of debt. What is the cost of debt? Cost of debt is if the company borrow the money from the bank, then generally they have to pay the interest. The total interest is the cost of the debt. So we want it to be as low as possible. Will, what is a will? Will is a contract between the tenant and the landlord. Generally we want will to be as long as possible, but we don't want it to be too long also, because if it is too long, then the risk company cannot have higher income. So generally, maybe around 3 to 5 years would be the best, but it also depends on the industry. If you are buying the healthcare risk, generally their will is between 10 to 20 years. If you are the retail risk, the generally the will is between 2 to 3 years. It's also very much depend on the risk that you are buying. So number 5 is the weighted average debt maturity. So this one is actually telling you how long the debt will be expiry. Like if you borrow from the bank, how long you have to pay for the money to back to the bank. So this one we generally want as long as possible, because we don't want the risk they borrow their debt to be expiry so short. We want the debt expiry date to be as longer as possible. But a lot of the risk company, what they're doing is once the expiry date is near, they will try to negotiate to the bank to extend the expiry date for another few more years. Generally, the bank will accept, because this is a win-win situation. For the risk companies, they no need to pay the debt so early. For the bank, is they can collect a few more years interest from the risk company. Of course, the last one you cannot ignore is the dividend yield. We want the dividend yield to be more than 5% to 7%. Of course, you can still more than 7%, but generally we want it minimum is 5%. So all these 6 criteria, if you can find a risk that is meet all the criteria, then it will be the good risk for you to buy. So what to buy? Generally in Singapore, there is a lot of the risk companies, about 30 to 40 companies, but there is only a few that is really worth to look at. So I have concluded is actually a McDonald's plus fries and Coca-Cola. Mac plus F and K. M is stand for Mapletree, A is Ascendus, C is Capital, F is Fraser, K is Kepe. So this 5 is actually a biggest risk company in Singapore also. So generally, if you are buying their risk, you are very hard to get the bad company, and then you can just collect in the dividends. So what if you have no time to do a research? Because with all these company, you still have to go and look at all the details, all these details. What if you are no time, you are very busy in your family, or you work, whatever. So you can actually buy a risk ETF. This 3 is listed in Singapore. The first one is a Philip. Philip is a they are buying the company are listed in the Australia, Hong Kong, China, and Singapore. The average dividend yield is 7.02%, which is a very good one. You are just buying the risk ETF, you don't need to do any research, then you get 7%. The second one is a Nikon. Nikon, their majority, or mean the companies are in Singapore and Hong Kong. This one, the dividend yield is slightly lower, it's about 4.09%, but it's acceptable. The last one is Leon. Leon is majority are all are the Singapore risk company, so their dividend yield is about 6.28%. So if you are buying these 3 ETF, example you have a 10,000, you just split equally into 3, then you can averagely get about 5 to 7% dividend yield. Is not a problem for you. Okay, so this slide is telling you how to hold the risk for the dividend, to collect the dividend, and then for the retirement. Okay, just now I mentioned that we are easily to get 7%. 7% is not the issue if you are just buying the risk ETF. So we assume that you have 7% dividend yield, and then you want 3,000 per month, and it's about 36,000 per year. So it's divided by 7%, 36,000 divided by 7% will be equal to about 500,000. You actually only need 500,000, then just buying the risk ETF, then you can retire in Singapore very peacefully with the annual income of 36,000, and then 3,000 per month is I believe it's more than enough for you to enjoy the life in Singapore. So what if you now have half a million now? So you can start today. You just save $10 a day, $300 a month, $3,600 a year. Then you invest in the 30 years with a 7% dividend reinvestment. After the 30 years, you can actually have about 340,000, and then you times 7%. Your annual income from the dividend is about 23,000. It's almost 24,000. If you divide by 12 months, monthly you have about $2,000. All this calculation is still not including the capital gain of the risk company, so the actual amount will be definitely more than this $2,000. So there is no reason that you don't know how to invest. Just buy a risk only, then you can retire in Singapore only peacefully. So let's have an example of how we're going to see all these criteria to choose a good company. First of all, I will use a website is this one. This one is I found is one of the best website that I have. Okay, so let's choose one company. Let's say I choose I will choose the capital commercial will be a good one. Yes. Okay. What is the criteria again? First one. Okay. Gearing ratio between 30 to 40. The gearing ratio of capital commercial is 35 passes. And then the second criteria is the interest cover ratio is 2 to 3 times. Interest covering ratio is about 5.7 times. This is fantastic. Their rental they're collecting 1 month can equal to 5 to 7 times of the interest that they are paying. So it's fantastic. So the third criteria is the average cost of debt. This one we want it to be as low as possible. Generally, we don't want it to be more than 3%. So let's look at cost of debt 2 to 3% pass. Number 4 is will. Will is a contract. So we look at the contract of the capital commercial. Will is about 5.8 years. So just now I have mentioned the will is depend on the industry. So capital commercial trust is actually under office risk. So 5.8 years is generally is one of the good one. The fifth one will be weight average debt maturity. Let's look at. Okay, so their debt will be expiring in the next 3.5 years. It's still long enough for capital more and capital commercial to generate a lot of the income. So and then one of the thing you can also look at is occupancy is about 95%. Generally we want it to be more than 90%, then will be the good one. And then the DPU is also increasing. You can look at here, yearly increasing. Then we also can look at the dividend yield. The last one is dividend yield more than 5%. So how much is dividend yield? Dividend yield in the last 4 quarters is about 5.31%. It's past. It's more than 5%, so I give it a pass. So we conclude that Capital Land Commercial Trust is one of the good company that you can own if you are interested in risk. Okay, in here I conclude the risk. So we now move on to the bank. Singapore Bank. Singapore only have three banks, OCBC, UOB, and DBS. So let's dive into the details of these three banks. So this is a fundamental analysis FA of these three banks. If you only look at the dividend yield, OCBC is the highest one. OCBC offer you about 6.31% of the dividend yield. If you look at the price to book ratio, if you don't know what is a price to book ratio is, generally it's telling you that how the bank is undervalued or overvalued. We don't want it to be more than 1.2. So right now the most undervalued one is also OCBC is about 0.83. If you look at the revenue of the last 12 months, DBS generated the most revenue is about 13.31 billion. Second one is OCBC and followed by the UOB. If you look at the net income, DBS also generate the highest one is about $5 billion compared to the 4 billion to OCBC and UOB. But if you look at the debt, the most recent quarter, the UOB actually have a less debt, which means UOB is very healthy. If you look at the cash, UOB also is a very healthy. Their cash is more than their debt. From the OCBC, it also more than the debt. But this one is the DBS is the only one that their cash is less than their debt. Means DBS is have more debt than their cash on hand. This is not really healthy because as a bank, supposed to have more cash to be standby in case of any financial crisis. So I'm not sure what happened to the DBS. Maybe this is just a quarter. We will continue to monitor next quarter to see whether the DBS is it taking too much of the debt. So after the FA, we try to compare some of the technical analysis. So for the technical analysis, we can see that the red color is the DBS, black color is OCBC, green color is the UOB. From here, we can see that the DBS is outperformed two of them, followed by the OCBC and UOB. So if you want to buy the bank, DBS maybe is the best one, and then followed by the OCBC and UOB. Okay, so just now I have mentioned that we have to look at the price to book ratio to define the company, is it undervalue or overvalue. So this is a DBS report in February. So let's look at the DBS price to book value is about 1, I will say 1.1. Yeah. So this one is telling you that the average is 1.11. Now right now DBS is only slightly overvalued. We can also say that DBS is in the fair value. So let's look at OCBC. OCBC is below the average, means OCBC is actually an undervalue. It's good to buy now, but it can be also go lower because now it's only -1 standard deviation. It can go to the -2 standard deviation, which is here. So you can buy it now. Then if the price going down again, then you can just buy again to average down the price. Don't all in at one time. Okay, UOB. UOB is similar to OCBC. It's about -1 standard deviation. It's undervalued, but it can also go to another -2 standard deviation. It's more undervalued now. So I would say that you can also buy a UOB, but then you can also average down. But look from the fundamental and the technical analysis just now, I would say that the DBS and OCBC are outperform the UOB. So this is the whole, all the three banks of the Singapore. Generally, all the bank is actually in undervalue now, so you can actually just buy. So you can look at the PE ratio also. PE ratio is about fair value, slightly undervalue only. Yeah. So from here, I conclude that the Bank of Singapore is actually good to buy. You can just have a if you're just buying for dividend, it's also good because it also give you about 5 to 6% of the dividends for you to just enjoy collecting a dividend every quarterly, every 6 months. Then you can just enjoy that life. So in here we conclude that Singapore market is for investment. What kind of product to invest, which company to buy, is only risk and banks can buy. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again. Bye.